Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Robin's Nest. Today I wanted to talk about that absolute disaster of a race that happened yesterday at Watkins Glen in the Truck Series. What a joke. What an absolute dumpster fire of a race. I mean, just terrible. I want to break it down a little bit, but also before I get into that, I want to talk about my little brother for a minute. So if you saw the post that I made on YouTube, or if you follow us on X, I made another post about it there. But I started I don't know if you call it a crowdfunder or GoFundMe, what have you, for him this morning. And so I've never created one. Ignore that. I forgot to mute my phone, but I've never created one before. I'm not real wild about asking people for, help as far as, money and stuff like that goes. I've never been the type person that, has his hand out asking for anything from anyone. And but the situation that we're in with my brother just kind of warrants that. Unfortunately, it's he was diagnosed with MS several years ago, and he was living on his own. He was married. He has two kids, two little boys, and when he got diagnosed, and if you're unfamiliar with MS leaves, it puts lesions on your brain, I guess is the best way to describe it. And so it affects your motor skills, your motor function. And most people that you see that's been diagnosed with MS and they've had it for a while, they're in a wheelchair or a scooter, mobility scooter, whatever you want to call it. And, he's 34 now. I think he may have turned 35. We're a year apart, I know that. I'm 36, so I think he may have already turned 35. But when he was diagnosed and he started not being able to work, and he started having to have other people take care of him, things like that, his wife left him and took the kids. And, I'm not throwing shade at anybody. That's not my business. It's just, not a good situation as far as that's concerned. But he had to move onto my mother's property. He lives in his own house, but he's literally 10 feet away from my mom. She goes out there and checks on him every day, and he spends most of his time at her place. And but he uses a walker to get around. He called me probably an hour ago, and you can't, carrying on a conversation with him is next to impossible. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and he repeats himself a lot, and it's not a good situation. And as far as MS is concerned, there's no cure for it. So it's going to progressively get worse. And to add into that, his house was struck by lightning a few days ago. And so all of his electronic devices and things that he needs on a daily basis were all zapped and are no good now. So having to replace that, and I'm trying to work up enough funds to buy him a scooter, because like I said, he uses a walker to get around now, and he falls a lot. There was I think it was about a year ago, he snuck out, and when I say snuck out, like, he has to be under watch 24/7 because he can't walk. If he tries to walk, he'll fall down. And some of the things that's happened to his brain or whatever, it's basically like a child. And I say that in a derogatory way at all, but I mean, it's basically the kind of scenario that you're in. And anyways, he snuck out, and he was going to go to the store down the street from the house, and lost his balance and fell into a ditch and laid there for a while before anyone fortunately found him. And he was busted up, his face was bloody and everything. It's just, God, it's awful. It's awful. And the thing is, my little brother, since he's a year apart from me, we grew up, we were best friends basically. Everything I did, he was right there with me, and vice versa. And he worked on cars a lot, always drove, because I've never been the mechanic in the family. That was basically him. He could rebuild an engine with his eyes closed. And I didn't care how a car worked as long as it worked. I'd jump in it and drive it. As long as it worked like it was supposed to, that's all I cared about. And if it didn't, then he was the person I went to, and he'd fix it. And, there was one time, there's a railroad track down the street from where we grew up. We grew up in Mount Olive, Alabama. And there's a railroad track that runs down. It was about a quarter mile from our house, and then it'd run off in the woods. And About a mile and a half or so off in the woods is or it used to be a train trestle. It's a massive wooden one. It was the biggest wooden trestle in the Southeast. And when they stopped running trains down there, they pulled the tracks up, but the railroad bed was still accessible. So I took my car down there one day. I had a 1999 Mitsubishi Mirage. I've talked about that car on here before. It's a turd. But I had him, my brother, and a couple of our friends in the car with us. And I had tried to rally this car out, so it had no back seat. Those guys were sitting on the floor in the back. My brother was in the back, somebody else in the back. And so we were trying to rally, essentially, down that railroad bed. We were pretending like we were in WRC in a 99 Mirage. And I went around a corner, and so we're on gravel. You know, it's a railroad bed, so we're on gravel, and I started to lose that car. Back come out from under me. I caught it probably about a foot away from hitting the embankment, and it probably would have killed everybody in the car. A bunch of stupid kids, stupid teenagers. And then we'd sit around all the time, even when we got older and, we moved out, and he would come over to my place, and we'd sit around playing racing video games all the time. And it always drove me nuts because we'd sit there for 10, 15 minutes before we went racing so he could set up his car and tweak it and all that kind of crap. I'm like, dude, let's just race. Forget about all that. Let's go. And he'd beat me every time because he had his car set up, and I'm just running with a stock setup, which is garbage. Regardless of the game, stock setups are terrible for the most part. So anyways, it's heartbreaking for me. When my dad passed away a couple of years ago, my brother was there for that. My dad passed away in the middle of the night, and my brother was there, saw it all happen, was there when the EMTs and everything came, and so he can't verbally communicate stories very well, but for whatever reason, that one is one that sticks in his mind, and he can tell you every detail about what happened and go into it and whatever. But it's just sad to see. So anyways, we're trying to get up money to help him out and stuff like that. So the link is in the description to the crowdfunding, the GoFundMe, whatever you want to call it. And any help is much appreciated. Tell your friends, share it, scream it from the mountaintops, and what have you. If you enjoy listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, anything like that, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications, the works. If you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, anything like that, check out our eBay, and the link is in the description as well. Also follow us on X and Facebook. Those links are in the description. We post a lot of motorsports content throughout the day on both of those. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the trucks raced at Watkins Glen yesterday, and it was a joke, basically. There was one segment in that race where they actually got some laps in, but overall, it was it was accident after accident after accident after accident. And a lot of people online are wanting to chalk that up to the drivers, driving like a bunch of morons and stuff like that. But I don't think that's really what happened. I think what happened is you perform in the box that you've been put in. Okay, and the box that they're put in there's 2 stage breaks throughout the race, timeout breaks, whatever you want to call them. I always call them timeout breaks to poke fun at them because I think stages are just idiotic, and stage breaks is just like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Specifically, one of those stage breaks, when they went to caution, Fox, at least here that we were watching, never went to commercial break. Now, I was under the assumption that stage breaks were intended for the networks to squeeze in some more commercial breaks. And if they're not going to commercial break, then what's the point? And I think stages and stage breaks and all that kind of stuff doesn't need to exist anyways, but I also think playoffs don't need to exist. And if you follow this channel, and if you followed it for any amount of time, you know how I feel about that. I don't need to belabor the point, but when you have stages and you have stage breaks, it directly leads into whatever follows. Okay, so when you have a stage break and caution, you go back green, you have a crash. Okay, that crash likely wouldn't have happened if there was no stage break. So it directly leads into everything that follows. And in lower series like the trucks and Xfinity, there's no reason for that. Like I said, there's no reason for it at all. But certainly not in the lower divisions. I mean, and playoffs in the lower divisions doesn't make any sense. These guys are trying to cut their teeth for the most part. You know, I know you have people like Matt Crafton that are, you know, career truck guys, but for the most part, it's young guys trying to cut their teeth. And you get down to the end of that race and you got people running out of gas because we're doing overtime after overtime after overtime because we can't get a green flag lapping without people crashing. It's just ridiculous. And overtime as well is another thing that doesn't need to exist. I understand. I remember all the frustration everyone had about the way that those races were ending, especially when they had the overtime line, which was the stupidest idea that anyone ever came up with. I'm glad that's gone. But at the same time, there just shouldn't be overtime. You know, it should be just like any car. It should be just like NASCAR was back in the day. If you get a caution with 3 laps to go, well, the race is over. You know, that's racing. That's pure motorsport. Overtime is a gimmick to create artificial excitement and to tear equipment up because that's what's going to happen. Guys are going to crash. It's just inevitable. And that's in all 3 series. It's just inevitable. And speaking of the top series of Cup, I didn't know this until the other day. I was reading Kevin Harvick talk about it, but in Iowa, evidently the ARCA cars had qualified faster than the Cup cars did. Now I want you to wrap your mind around that for a second. Okay. Cup is supposed to be the top step in stock car racing in the US. That's supposed to be, if you're in Cup, you've made it. Okay. Xfinity, development series. Trucks, development series. Even though the truck series was not created to be a development series, is basically what it's turned into. And then below trucks, you have ARCA. Okay, ARCA is, you know, they're old retired Cup cars, but I think they're detuned. They're supposed to be detuned to where they weren't nearly as fast as what they were when they were Cup cars. The fact that a 4th series down, 3rd series down, however you want to look at it, are faster than the top step of the sport is insane. There's no excuse for that. Kevin Harvick was bashing the sanctioning body for that too. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Cup cars should be the fastest, the most mean, the most evil handling, hard to drive cars out there in the stock car world. They should be. The fact that they're not, and the fact that ARCA is faster, is just asinine. And I hope the new NASCAR 25 game, when it comes out, I hope they actually replicate that in the game. I doubt they will. But they need to. They need to, if they want to focus on authenticity, they need to make sure that the ARCA cars are slower than the Cup cars. Or ARCA cars are faster than the Cup cars, I should say. See, it doesn't even sound right saying it. That's why I'm screwing up trying to say it. It just sounds, it's broken. That's not right. We'll see what happens. And Xfinity practice was just on a minute ago, so I'm going to go back in there and watch the race coming on here in a little bit. Shane cleaned out 2 different cars in practice. Who was it? Sam Mayer and Christian Eckes, which is weird. You know, Shane is the road course. This is his bread and butter. And then he goes into the first corner and just never turns and hooks Sam Mayer and turns him around and then gets Christian Eckes as well. I would imagine if they've got to repair that car, like the commentators were saying, he may have to start from the back, but it doesn't matter. How long do we think it'll take for him to be up front? If he starts dead last, how long? Let's make a wager on how long it'll take Shane to get from the back to the front. I'm going to say less than 10 laps. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm going to bet on. So anyways, I'm going to go back in there and watch it. If you guys enjoy listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, stuff like that, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications, the works. Follow us on Facebook, X. Link is in the description. Also, if you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, or anything like that, check out our eBay. Link is also in the description. Until next time, guys, we'll see you, guys and gals. Love you. Thanks for watching. Peace.